for today, what we're going to do is go through the top 5. We're going to go through them in a completely random order. We're going to provide the feedback on them, so some good things, some bad things. There's going to be a Q&A session as well, so if you have any questions, make sure to post them in the chat, and we would highly appreciate if you could post them in the Q&A section, so that just allows us to make things easier for us, basically. Yeah. And of course, the very most important thing is we announce the winner of the challenge, who has submitted the best report in our all opinion. All right, you guys ready?
Go for it.
Sure. Let's go for it. Let's take the screen and let's go for the first submission that has gotten into the top 5. So the first submission comes from Maria Fernanda Helguera. So congratulations to you in getting into the top 5. So let's open up the report and take a closer look at it. So first of all, what we see here is sort of a kind of welcoming page, right? I usually think that these welcoming pages are okay, but as long as they provide a little bit more extra information, like for example, what the data, for example, is going to be about. Not to go too much into extent, right, to give all the descriptions and everything, but just a small summary, for example, of what the report is all about. That would be an ideal addition here. Once we go to the report itself, so one of the things that I would say from here is, for my kind of point of view or my taste, this seems a little bit too overcrowded, and I'll tell you why. When you look at this part right here, right, what I'm feeling is this is kind of getting into the realm of having, kind of cards and, for example, trends in the background. But because they're not transparent, but they're kind of highlighted, it feels like this is the first thing I need to focus on. Because remember, the way on how we read information is from the top left going to the bottom right. So we're going in zigzag motion, right? So the first thing is focusing on those. And when I'm looking at an e-commerce analysis, well, the first thing that I'm probably going to be looking for is going to be either the total sales or the profit. I'm going to be looking for a number, not necessarily the chart itself. The chart is a great addition to it, but I want to see that particular number. So that's just one thing that I wanted to put out there, because that's the first thing that I noticed here. Other than that, I like the fact that you also provided an option to kind of focus on the top in certain categories. A donut chart that allows you to cross-filter the information. What I would have probably done here is maybe decrease the size of the donut chart itself, because one of the things that you have to consider whenever you're, for example, creating a donut chart is a donut chart is a chart that works best when you're kind of making sort of a very similar rectangle, not a very stretched one, not a very long one, but more of a square size. So it has a lot better algorithm on how to position things. So that's one thing you can take into consideration. For these lines, I would probably say that just having years is not enough. Maybe have it on a monthly basis. I like the map that it has the clustering capability. So you can zoom in and focus on certain details or particular country if you want to. You have the other page where we have the decomposition tree, the scatter plots, different other visuals. But one thing that I would highly recommend here is just highlighting which page I'm on currently. And this is one of the things that, I don't know for what reason, but for this challenge, a lot of you seem to kind of forget about this. Previously, we didn't have as many kind of submissions where this was happening, but highlight what is selected. Okay. Happens, right? Live session. Sorry, guys. Quitting teams. There we go. Just making sure. So yeah, one thing that I would highly recommend is just emphasize on what is being currently selected. Other than that, what I like about it is that, of course, we have some sort of an information overlay that allows us to explain the report a bit more detail for the user itself. We have the clear all functionality. So for example, if I have filtered something out, I can use the clear all filters to just reset everything to a default state. Federico, from your side, any comments?
Yes, go to the second page, please.
Yep.
Okay, that second visual on the top, the scatter plot. I'm sorry, I can't read it. I don't know what that means. Not me. Maybe people that can understand it, but not me. And you need to think about your end user. Is this a visual that people can read? It's providing me, even if or not, it's providing me with information I need to understand the growth, okay, of sales and discount. Okay, it's not something that I use. I know Gustav does it fantastically well, but I can read Gustav scatter plot, but I cannot read for some reason this one. Okay, that's one point. Go to the first page, please.
Yep.
I like the color palette of the donut chart, but a 3D chart, I won't put it. Okay, something against my philosophy, but I love the color and the look if achieved. And I agree with Avis. This 4 card at the top, it doesn't give me my information other than the line of the progress of through the year, but I want to see a number there. Okay, give me a whole number. And apart from that, it's a very good looking, well put together, properly white spaces and alignment. So a very nice report. Well done.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think that like every other report, right? Don't get this, like one of the things that I also always reiterate, don't get discouraged about if there are things that we think that could be improved upon. Trust me, my reports could do the same thing. Federico's reports could do the same thing. All of these things is just something you need to take in account when building the report. Because at the end of the day, one of the trickiest parts about building the report is catering to the user. Sure, you know your rules or how to create a visual and so forth. But if they're going to be thinking that the report is difficult, hard to read, hard to navigate, it doesn't matter how good you are. If the end user is not going to be using it, it's useless, right? So you kind of have to find that fine line and try to create a good visual that allows the user to get the most out of it. So that's the most difficult part about all of this. But yeah, congratulations in getting to the top 5. Congratulations again, Maria. So I think we can go to the next one.
Sorry,
Yeah,
just
Gusto, go ahead.
If I may.
1 second.
It's a very minor thing, but I really appreciate the unification in the icons. Of course, icons are the small minor thing, but the nice thing here is that all of them are like the outline version of the icons, because we can easily mix the outlined icons with the field icons, but it's not like a unified look of the icons. So even with such small details as the small images or the icons, it's really great to keep them unified. And you did the very good work using and selecting carefully only the outline, in that case, outlined icons. And of course, the icons of the countries is also a great addition and give you the quick information about what the country is in a specific place. So 2 minor things which are implemented well here.
Absolutely. Because believe it or not, when you have these flags, for some people, it's a lot easier to just look for the particular flag than going through the whole alphabet, right? It's a game of association. That's the thing. So yeah, congratulations again. And I think we can move on to the next report. So the next submission that has gotten into the top 5 comes from Misha Riaz. So congratulations, Misha, in getting into the top 5. Now let's open up the report and see what we can do here. And for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Gusto to have first go at it, mainly because, I mean, let's be honest, guys, right? You've heard me and Federico a lot at the time, so it's kind of give the opportunity for a new voice to come in. So Gusto, take it away and tell me what to do, what to click, and what to show.
Sure. So let's stay on that particular page. And the first impression that I get after opening this particular report is it's extremely clean. It's simplistic and it's clean. It's very greatly laid out in terms of the structure. The nice thing is that the all main visualization has a white background, and it's very good in terms of distinction of the visualizations comparing to the layout. So when I'm looking at this particular report, I know what I should focus on because there is a specific structure of the report. On the top, of course, there is a header, but there are 5 beautiful KPI cards that are designed in a very great way. So we have the call-out values, the biggest one, but we also have the current year sales and the previous year sales with additional conditional formatting, which highlight the variances on in a red and green colors. So it gives you a quick information which KPI cards shows the positive or the negative variances. It's very good. On the other hand, it's also a nice addition to implement the spark line charts as you did. There are like 2 points, probably the minimum and the maximum. There is some kind of like we might consider if we should use the green and red to show the minimum and maximum, because there are a few approaches to that. Not necessarily the minimum value has to be like the red. In some cases it might be, but not necessarily. So we have to be conscious, and we strategically should use the green and red, especially if you also include the variances, for example, because it can be easily misinterpreted as a negative variance, for example. So it's like the minor thing, but the general look of the KPI cards is that they look very good overall. I really like that. One thing that it's also, of course, stood out is like the navigation on the top right corner. So it's like the overview market segment categories. And the nice thing is that there are different modes. So if you hover over the specific button, it changes how it looks like. So it gives a good user experience by informing to what page you would like to navigate. In terms of the button, one thing that I could recommend to incorporate a little bit differently is the buttons that are placed near the specific visualizations, because as I remember, if you hover over, there is no specific action. So if you have sales or profit, of course, one of them is selected because it's derived mainly from the title. So it's like sales by year, so it's a good information. But there is no hovering over mode and different layout look of the button. So we could incorporate like the small difference shades of your color palette to inform the user that he is switching from one to the second one. But the nice thing is also you add the header, which of course in that case it stays the sales, the profit stays profit, but it can be also incorporate different headers with the tooltips, etc., as you did, for example, nearby the headers, the titles and subtitles, because there is a small icon with an E symbol on the right chart, or on the bottom left, you have the total sales title and the small icon that indicates the tooltip. So it's also a very greatly appreciate, like the small thing, but it's great from the user experience. I really like also the double headers, like you have the title and subtitle. It's designed in a nice way. Yeah, the visualization title, subtitle is very good. One thing that I also consider is the timeline charts on the bottom left section. As we can see, it's like from the January to December, it's like in a monthly perspective. But let's also consider which years are selected. If we are currently have selected all the years, like the 4 years for 2020 to 2024, the end user should be aware that all information on a timeline is actually the summarization of all years. So it's, to some extent, it might be good to spot the different trends for the month across all the years, but and the end user should be aware that it's like the aggregation. So the January now is the summarization of 4 years. And we usually rather see the long trend lines, like 4 years, and not like by month, but rather the year and month. So the suggestion was in that case to inform the end user that he or she looking at the aggregated data for all 4 years. Of course, there is like the nice thing that we can drill down to the specific year if we click on December, for example, and now we have the split to different years. But I think the most usual typical scenario is when we use like the yearly and monthly chronology at the same time, and not only the monthly with all years at the same time. And if we could go to the different page, maybe to the market now. So as we can see, we have additional charts that can fulfill the expectation, the requirements of the challenge, and all additional charts. I don't have like any particular comments here. It's still very clean and minimalistic. So we can go to the last one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a similar thing, but the nice thing is you establish your visualization, you distinguish like the best sellers, top contribution countries, etc. So you purposefully use specific visualization to show the specific analysis. So it's like done in a very clean way. It's nicely done. One thing that I could consider to incorporate is like the more benchmarking, more variances. So not only the structure of the data, but also the comparisons like to the previous year, for example, or to the target, depending on the analysis. So not only the structure like here, but also adding like supplementing those visualization with the variances, benchmarking, etc. But overall, it's a beautiful report, very well designed, very cleanly designed with a lot of nice features. So congratulations.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gustav. From my side, a couple of things. So one of the things that I would definitely kind of like to showcase here is that they actually took the time to look at the details and how the report looks like, right? And you can see this actually happening right here. So what they did is they understood that this place doesn't have enough room to showcase the labels inside. So they purposely positioned them outside and changed the way and how they look. Now, was it the greatest approach? It's a tricky kind of decision here, because here you have to choose, okay, do I want to make these things look exactly the same for every single visual, or do I just emphasize on this one separately? Because if I would put everything outside, you can see, okay, that means that this one's going to be pushed down, this one has a little bit more room. So it's always, remember guys, what I'm telling you, it's always tricky to decide which is the best approach, right? You have to go with the one that you think works the best. And I think in this particular case, this is actually the best solution there is currently, because you're allowing the user to see this value. It's all good. All the other charts are showcasing it, so there's no issue with that whatsoever. Now, regarding the donut charts and having a card in the middle, one thing, this has been done actually a lot in this particular challenge, but one thing that still has everybody missed, right? Be very careful on visual order, how you're placing things and what is sitting in front and what is sitting in the back. The reason for this is, first of all, if I hover over the card in the middle, you can see that visual headers have not been disabled. So from an end user perspective, they're like, what the hell is this? Right? Remove visual headers, because this is something you can do for every single visual. If it's not needed, just completely remove it so it's not showcasing it where it's not supposed to be. The other thing, because you're having this visual on top of it and you're having physically a background rather than facing it in the back, if I try to hover over the donut chart, you can see that actual hover effect starts from like half the slice. So you're essentially taking away some of the visual. If I'm going upwards, it's almost immediate. But if I'm going to the sides, half of it is covered by the card visual. These are small little details, but trust me, every small little detail is going to matter when you give it to the end user, because it's the same thing as Federico does. They just have an amazing talent of breaking stuff. I don't know how they do it. They just find a way to break everything. So pay attention to these small little details. Now, if we go to the map visual, one thing that I wanted to kind of emphasize here and talk about is going to be the way and how you showcase the values. So having the values inside of a droplet is great because you're essentially defining that the position is always going to be inside. The label font color is exactly the same for all the visuals with few exceptions, which is fine. But the tricky part here is the background of your map is also white. The label on top of the droplet is also white. So if you have a very small droplet, you can see right here, for example, you're not even seeing half of the characters. So you don't even know how much it is. So one of the things that you can do in these instances is adjust the background color of the label. So to kind of just put it back in front of things. So you have the droplet, you have the background, and then you have the font label itself. Very quick fix, but just something to take into consideration. Now, if we go back to the first page, and not just here, but also on this one. So one of the things that, based on my experience, you can agree or disagree with this, and actually, yeah, maybe Gustav or Federico, you can comment on this as well. Whenever I see a timeline, I don't know how many times you have it based on something else as a chronological order. People want to have order. It's just the way it is. If it's categories, it's different. We can play around with them in different ways. But when it's time, you need to go in a chronological order, starting from the earliest, going to the latest. Here, it feels in reverse, right? You're starting from the latest and going back to the earliest dates. So this might be counterintuitive because here you're going basically one way, Now you're going the right way. Which way are we supposed to look? Right? These small little details, they're going to matter. Because for sales, I kind of understand why it's done like this. You're focusing on the numbers. When you go switch to profit, it also feels like it doesn't make a lot of sense, because it feels like you're just going in the reverse order just because. So that's one of those small little things. What else? The one thing that I would definitely pay attention to, and Federico is going to love this part because he loves to break the visuals, but since we have a total sales here and total sales here, and you can already see that these categories are going to be the same, selecting one of them here is only going to result in one single category in the other one. Once all the filters pass and my PC decides to run this query, right? So you're kind of breaking the visual look of things. So think about maybe separating the dimensions. I get that you could, for example, focus that one of this is a profit and the other one is sales, but it doesn't change the fact that selecting one particular region in one or the other is going to result in only a single slice or a single bar on the other one. There's no way around it. So that's the one thing from my side. What else? Some of the cool things that I like about this is something that Gustav mentioned in the previous report is the unanimized style of icons. That you're not going all around the place with different styles of icons and everything like that. You're sticking to what works best. And the cool thing about this is I think it actually kind of works also with the logo that you added here. So it kind of just connects, right? It feels very sleek, very good. Other than that, I think it's a very well-made report. You allow the user to approach with different segmentations and different filtering capabilities. The only other thing that I really think could be beneficial or could add some added value is a reset button. That's it. Just to give the user an ability to get back to start. Yeah. Go ahead, Federico.
I love the background. I think it's an excellent report all the way around, but the background, I actually pay for it to use it somewhere.
Yeah. Because one of the things is I'm not usually typically a fan of having some sort of an image in the background, because even though it kind of is distorted, but it is an image, right? This one's not too much. It just kind of works. So.
Let's go.
All right, the next one. So the next submission that has gotten into the top 5 comes from Sushri Yana. So I apologize, of course, up front if I accidentally butchered your name, but that's how I read it. We have to go with it. So for today, you're going to be Sushri. So let's open up the report and see what we can do with it. So for this one, I don't know, Federico, maybe you want to take the first hand at it.
Yes, let's go for this starting page. Sorry, I like the report. That page is a waste of space and room. Unnecessary. Yeah, you just can go straight to the report, and when I open the report, the first thing I see is information. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, there might be report that you have 20, 30 pages. You have to have some structure because this is going to take you to a number of pages, and this one to another number of pages. I understand that. But in some cases, and I remember it was fashion, we used to use it a lot. The idea is, do I want to see this page when I open the report? Or do I want straight to see the numbers because I got 5 minutes and I have to run away? Okay, so that page for me is unnecessary. I like this page. And couple of things. If you look at the top, order, sales, and profit, and then you have the title of the gauge, they are too close together, guys. Okay? And then the title, you can give it 10 pixel gap, top, left, and right, and you put that title like in a box and bring it down. So you separate it from being at the top of the shape. Again, the line that the gauge is like touching the line of the divider. Yeah, we need to think about the little thing. We need to give some space. When we are playing with text, we are talking about hierarchy. That is the title, that is the title. There is a hierarchy. And we have to give that small difference to say, okay, that is that, and that is that. And then it can detect all the visual. Remember to give it a little bit of space. Apart from that, there is no actually, okay, yeah, you go to the filter, the years, yeah, there we go. Guys, if we have year as a filter, we don't use any visual with years, or we make sure that filter doesn't apply to those visuals. Otherwise, you get a data point. And now you tell me the value of seeing the three massive bars, okay, of 2022 or 2023. Remember, filtering, and I think I prepared a report about this last week and I posted on LinkedIn. The first thing I try to actually find out in any work I do is what filter do you want? Forget about the visual at the moment. I want to know your filter. Because based on the filter, I'm going to prepare my visuals, not the other way. Okay, and if by any chance you have to play with the filters and you didn't have time for anything, play with them. Use the edit interaction. This one doesn't play with this one doesn't play with this one, and you have to go all around. And every visual, because visual filter, the filter, okay? If you click in a bar on a column, they filter too. You have to make sure everything is properly synchronized. So when you click a filter, it moves where it needs to move and nothing else. We go to self-employed.
Yep.
And corporate law. I'm moving myself. I think you are they the same KPIs? Different?
It's like
the same?
Same, yeah.
Yeah, there's no point for you to repeat the same cars or goes in all the 3 pages. Find something else. I'm sure you can find something else to put a line chart or something different. Apart from that, in my view, there's just things that you learn as you progress. Okay, it's well spaced, it's well laid out, it's well aligned. Okay, so I really like it. I will just play a little bit more with some more visuals. Take special attention to the filter, titles, and subtitles. Title and subtitle, I also wrote a post on LinkedIn last week about the importance of preparing proper title and subtitle. Okay, and to give space to them. So you can find this post, check it out. Apart from that, I really like it. I don't have much to complain or to not like it. Okay, about that, but it's just a matter of playing around with a little bit more. And don't repeat visual in the same place. I actually pinpoint client report when the same thing is appearing 3 times the same page. Why are you give me the same information? You're overloading my brain with information that I don't need. I know it's on the top. I don't need to see it anymore. Okay, that is my view. Apart from that, I really like it.
All right, Gustav, from your side, any comments? Anything you want to focus on?
Yeah, sure. Could you go to the executive summary page, please?
Absolutely.
So first thing that I like here is that the fact that there is like implementation of some kind of the benchmark to target. So if we looking at the 3 gauges, we can see that there is a comparison to the target values, which is great because it's also one of the main key requirements of the challenge. So it's great to apply the comparison tool, in that case to the target, which is a good thing. And I will cover that a bit deeper in a second, but let's go also to the top section of the report page, because now I'm a little bit confused because I see it like the slicer with the year, and I assume that it's a slicer. Then I see the consumer, self-employed, and corporate, and my first thought is that is actually the page navigator, which gives you the ability to go to the different pages. But then I will remember that there is like the categorization, like in one of the the structure of that particular data set, but because the consumer, self-employed, corporate is like the segment, for example. So I'm not sure now if it's like the filter, the consumer, self-employed, corporate is the buttons which slice and dice the data because it's a filter but designed in a different way than years, or it's like the navigator. Not sure. It looks like it's a different page. So I assume that in an executive summary, you wanted to highlight different segments. So some kind of the summarization of the consumer data, of the self-employed segment, or however the structure was called, the column was called, and also the corporate. Maybe it would be good to implement like the field parameters, for example, and drive that action through the slicers, not necessarily through the different page. And maybe we can also like to see the total values. I understand and of course appreciate the fact that you probably wanted to highlight different segments of the customers, which is a good thing. But maybe it will be also important on executive summary, especially to show the aggregated data, like the totals, not only for the consumer, not only for the self-employed or only the corporate, but all together. It might be a very important thing. The second thing that also paid my attention is the navigation on the left, which is designed nicely. However, I think we can make it a little bit narrower because it's important for us to make the main report section as wide, as big as possible, because it's the main core visualizations there. But here we have like the small, tiny navigation titles, which is good. But the pane and the black, the dark background for that pane is a bit too wide comparing to the actual objects and information that is included. So it can be a little bit narrower in my point of view. In terms of the targets, I'm not particularly a fan of using gouges for different targets, especially if we are talking about the profits, let's say, or the growth in general, because there might be like the negative growth. And I'm not sure if the gouges are the best choice in terms of the visualizations to show the negative the growth in general. And the one thing that also like paid my attention here is like the titles that Federico also mentions. It's like the earliest date and total orders. Total orders are fine, but I think the year, for example, in that case would be more valid, or like the date if we have different dimensions of data, but not necessarily also use the default names like the earliest, because it's not particularly the earliest. It might be like the call of the field in the Power BI, etc. But we try to remove all the unnecessary names from the titles and subtitles. And maybe the one thing that we can also cover is if we have like the vertical segments like orders, sales, and profits, we might design it in a way that we don't necessarily have to repeat the names like the orders 3 times or 3 times the sales. We can pack that into vertical segments and only use, for example, name orders once and not necessarily near to all visualizations separately. But it's like the general hint that we can also keep that in our minds. Maybe if we could go like quickly to the overview or to the customer.
Sure.
In terms of the naming of the executive summary and overview, we could potentially think about renaming a bit, because overview is also like the synonym of the executive summary. Maybe not in all cases. Maybe you have the different meaning of the overview, but it's also quite common that the overview page is like the executive summary, which might be a little bit confusing. And in the terms of the top timeline charts in the overview, if you could please go into the overview. In terms of the timelines, there is also like the X-axis category, which contains the month. And the same thing as in a previously discussed report, if you have like 4 years selected as now, it's like the aggregation of all those single months. So I would rather stick with the year-month granularity and not the month specifically on the timelines, to show the greater horizon, the trends from the 2020 to 2023 in that case, and not specifically using the month as the X-axis. Nice thing, maybe like the minor thing, but there is a component of the filters applied on the left. So if you have probably if you select some specific filters from the additional filter pane, there will be like the information that some filters are applied. And it's especially useful on these reports that contain the pop-up slicer pane as here, because if the end user choose some countries, segments, etc., some categories, and back to the main page, she don't necessarily know what is selected, but using the filters applied as you did improves the user experience, because you now know what the segments or the categories or even the items are selected. So it's a good thing, especially when using the pop-up window. So it's a good implementation in terms of that particular feature. So overall, congratulations for the entry.
Excellent. Thank you, Gustav. I like that trick with the years and months, because it happened to me. So I learned something today too.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. So the next submission has gotten into the top 5, comes from OK Dono FSM. So congratulations to you. Let's open up the report and see what we can do here. So let's open up the full screen version just to have a little bit more space. All right, so for this one, if we go for the overview page, it's very similar to how Federico mentioned. I wouldn't say that this one is completely useless, because what I expect kind of from an overview page is to give me a very brief overview of what's the current situation, right? So I have kind of the main things. I have the total number of orders, or total number of orders, products, countries, and so forth. The only other thing that kind of confused me is plus 329 based on what? It just tells me that it's plus 329, but based on what? New orders since yesterday, last month, last year? Just some sort of a description or explanation about these numbers would be ideal. But otherwise, I think as a quick overview page, this is okay, just to showcase you the main KPIs. If we go to the executive summary, the one thing that I appreciate about this one is that every single particular value has its own color, right? The sales is in this color, the total quantity this, total cost this, total profit that. The only other thing that I would be very cautious about is this is getting very close to the shade of red, which might make you feel that profit is always very bad. So kind of careful about that sort of thing. Other than that, I think it's a very good approach to allow the user to basically create colors as a distinguishment for a metric. So that's a good approach there. I don't have anything against the fact that you have, instead of providing hundreds of different slicers and everything, you just allow basically the user to filter out particular year, particular product through the slicers at the top. The only other thing is I would probably utilize this space a bit more efficiently. What I mean by this is I kind of feel that these slicers are getting squashed down to the separating line. You have a lot of free space right here that is not used for whatever reason, right? Maybe make the slicer just a little bit bigger, increase the font sizes to kind of utilize the space a bit more efficiently, or increase these blocks and make them go higher. Because even if you look at these buttons right here, and if you wanted to kind of create a good alignment, this is more space than you have here. Usually you should try to create sort of a unified experience for the spacing and padding. So that's one thing. The information overlay is here. So I like about this sort of a description of what I can do here. We also have the key trends, where we have the timeline going through different parameters and different regions. But if we go also back here, there's a few other things that we can do, right? So if we go back to the executive summary, and if I try to do anything with these items, they don't actually do anything. So for me, the first thing was, did I just break something, or did something not work? So unless there's a particular item or a reason that allows you to define something, do not add anything extra. Because trust me, people are going to be clicking on everything that is a bit outside of the ordinary. If you wanted to have these basically as a navigation tool for these pages, sure. But then again, right, why have it here and then also have it here? Because this makes me feel that settings, what does it kind of connect to, right? That's probably going to allow me to apply some filters. But no, it's not going to do anything. Some sort of a search functionality. Cool, I can find a particular product. No, you cannot. Maybe that's your profile, but the profile also doesn't showcase anything. So it just creates more questions than answers, and usually try to avoid anything that allows the user to kind of come to a situation where he has to ask questions to understand what is it looking at. You try to make it as simple as possible. This just creates confusion. So what I would probably do is make this information button the same design as the clear filters button, just to have them more aligned, and then basically have the page navigation, which I don't have anything against. I think it's very kind of neatly created that doesn't take too much attention, but it's still there for its purpose. And then these three icons, just get rid of them. Have everything that comes to the report inside of the report container, basically, the layout, and then have the navigation on top of it. If we go to the next page, like I said, we have the trends. This allows us to switch between the different properties. And the main thing that you're always trying to understand is this segmentation. So consumer, corporate, and self-employed. So how are they comparing to each other? Based on category, subcategory, market. And also we have here a switch to a product performance and region performance, which most likely what I would have done is created some sort of a hierarchy. Now, what I mean by this is also what Gustav mentioned too, right? And Federica also. Every single report is following some sort of an order, some sort of a hierarchy. So when you're telling the user to come to a page, which is called key trends, which is fine, by default, you're opening up key trends. You allow me to customize it, but then you allow me to switch actually to two different sub pages. So what I would have done is make sure that the user understands that this page actually has three more options. And for this page, you have these controls. For the second page, you have these controls, but have it based on the principle of hierarchy, because this allows me to switch the whole page, not just a property within a page, basically. Right? So that's from my side. Other than that, I think that the report itself is relatively sleek. There's not too much overcrowd with different visuals and so forth. It kind of fits nice together. I like the fact that you, like I said, assigned the color to a particular value. That's pretty good. But yeah, it's a good report. Federico, from your side?
Yes, I actually, you know me, I tried to break the report and I was very happy because I was able to move all the segment, all the filter without breaking it. It's actually doing well. It doesn't. These do not break the report. Now, if you go to the line chart and you click in a data point,
you found a way.
And that, yeah, I realized just now, I was so happy to comment on this report because I want to say, well done. And I'm going to still say well done because I know you have taken into account how filter interact. Okay, we are not visual. We have this one just run away. You did not check it out. You did forget. I understand that. So that is great. And I like this kind of big for KPI card because it's kind of all together. It's coming the same rectangle. It's a group. Therefore, I'm going to look at one as a whole and then the other one, okay, and give me different information. So I quite like the idea of using this type of big KPI card. Okay, I think Gustav does fantastic example of this. Okay, and I like that. And apart from that, the report, I really like it. I was so happy when I couldn't break it. So remember that little detail, that extra hour. That time that you go to your girlfriend, your wife, your friend, check the report, break it. If not, Federico will break it. Okay, and when you are happy, you presented that little detail. Okay, I think very important, not just for me as a developer, but for your client. Because your client break it, he doesn't know what happened. What did I do? Did I break the report? Do I send an email to these people? Or why happened? Why it happened? Okay, so apart from that, I'm very happy with the report. I'm massive well done. And a massive well done because I know you went through the filter and tried to tackle the little problem with the field tag and interaction.
Absolutely. The only other thing that I could mention here is this is just purely visual, but always, guys, think about the visual that you're creating. And the reason why I'm talking about this is the current creation that the OK has created here is a line chart without any markers. What does a line chart represent visually when there is no data points to connect to? There's nothing to showcase. There is no 2 points to connect a line between. So what you can see in the rest of the visuals, it seems like they're broken, when in reality, they're not broken. There's just nothing to create a line between. There's just a single point. There's no marker. So I can't create a line without 2 at least data points, right? So this is one of the reasons why you're going to notice in a lot of visuals that they have data markers. Because even though I just have a single point, at least I'm going to have that marker there. Or alternatively, columns is an alternative option. But yeah, just play around with these, and just remember, guys, Federico is going to find a way on how to break the reports. So play around with them.
Let's move on.
Yeah. So the last submission that has gotten into the top 5 comes from Rakshit Bohadri. So congratulations to you. Let's open up the report, and I'll give the floor to Federico and Gustav.
Gustav, please go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so first thing, maybe we focus on the left pane navigation. So the nice thing about it is when you're hovering over, you have the feeling of like changing the selection. So it's well designed, and there is an additional tooltip when hovering over that gives you an information about what is the page. So it's a nice thing. If you could like hover over, there is a specific name of the page. It's good. I would rather not only include the icon, but also the text like directly in a navigation pane. So the end user not only see the icon, but also the text, the name of the page. But it's like the good alternative by using the additional tooltip header, which is a good thing. Then we have like the 2 additional slicers on the top right. It might be they might be a little bit smaller. They're quite big to my eye, but the general thing is that it's good to incorporate that. So it's a good advantage that you did so. So it's nice to see that clearing filters and the filter pane which is activated. There is also like the numbers 2 in that particular case. It's probably informing the end user how many filters are currently applied on a report page, which is also a good addition. If you could please click on that particular button, it probably goes to the different pop-up menu. Nice thing, you utilize additional icons within the slicer, which is a good additional feature. And we have like the bunch of the drop downs. It's okay. So we can like collapse the entire pane, and we can focus now on the KPI cards. The good thing is that you included the KPI cards. However, which could be also incorporated is the, once again, the benchmarking. It's especially important in a report that to include not only the callout values, the main values for the actual currently selected data, but also the benchmark, comparing, for example, the previous year, showing the variance to the budget, let's say, or to the targets, depending on what the data is and what the information we have in our data sets. But in that case, there might be like the previous year, for example, comparison of all the targets. Second thing is the metrics. We have the profit size, etc. I think it might be a good thing to include the profit margin after, let's say, after the sales and profit, to include the additional order for the metrics. So if we have the sales and we have some profits, there might be like on the left as it is now, but the third button, from my perspective, might be the profit margin. And then we go to the order, then we go to the customer, or maybe the units. But the profit margin, it could be great to like incorporate this particular button near to profit and sales as the specific order of the names. Then we have specific visualization. I think that all of them can be potentially packed into the white, for example, white backgrounds, because now it's a little bit too blended with the layout, because the layout is like the light purple, let's say, color, but also the background are distinguished only by using the shades around the visualization itself. I think it might be a good addition to like incorporate the lighter, let's say, the white background for each visualization, which distinguish each visualization when we compare it to the layout. In terms of the titles, good thing to know the end user that is like the top customers ranking. Okay, we know what are we looking at. It's perfectly fine. What I like about this report is an additional answer to the specific questions of the challenge. So if you could click on FP20 answers, it's a nice, like the very creative way to show the end user what are the specific answers to the specific questions that we ask in this particular challenge. Of course, there is like some effect of the overlapping objects. So there might be situation as here when we have the navigation pane, like here, like with the bookmarks, with the questions, and we don't necessarily are able to read an entire explanation or a text. But generally speaking, it's a very creative idea to implement the answers to the questions. So I really like that. And there is also the tutorials on the left, so you can guide the end user what are he analyzing in a specific moment. So it's also a nice addition to the report. So what I appreciate personally is adding the answers to the questions and providing the tutorials. And if we go quickly to the different pages, let's say to maybe the regional analysis, maybe there are some nuances. I think the 3D map is looking generally great from the design standpoint, but I'm not sure if it derives like extraordinary value in terms of the insights. So it looks nice, but in many cases, the node 3D map with the different elements would probably work better. And there is also a tricky part to use like the heat map on the maps, because some regions are of course bigger, some regions are smaller. So using like the color filled countries, it's not always a good option. Some options with different maps that are presented in the previous reports with the droplets, I'm not sure how to.
Yeah.
But like there's like the different ways of visualizing the data and not particularly using the heat map as it is here. So there are better ways, but of course appreciate to incorporate the map. And if we could go to the different pages, like the quick insights, what is included. So we have the trend lines, which is a good thing, of course. There is like the geographical spread and analysis by the customer on the last part. So the nice thing is that you incorporated a lot of different angles of the data, a lot of different insights, also the churn rate, the customer segment, a lot of different information visualizations. I think that's pretty much all of my the general thought about this report. There are a lot of nice things that you incorporated, like the answers and the tutorials and a few other things.
All right, Federico?
I think that actually Gustav says summarize everything. I don't want to take more time of anybody. I just will reconsider all the colorful icons. Sorry, it's too colorful for me, the icons. I am more of a Gustav kind of guy. Got the outline icon when it's necessary and a simple one. And I 100% agree with Gustav. Yes, thanks for the navigation pane, but I don't know what these boxes mean, or the others mean, or the people mean. So you have to let me know if customer, is quantity, is whatever it is. Think about I am stupid and I don't know how to read a report, but I am your customer. Okay, so make sure you let me know that. And apart from that, I'm quite okay with Super Gustav advice. There is nothing to actually talk about anymore. And perhaps it's time for us to announce the winner.
Absolutely. Let me just change the screen, find the right one, because I don't want to be wrong as well. Okay, so we're going to find the right report, change the screen, start a new share. So the winner for the FP20 Analytics Challenge this month is Misha Riaz. So congratulations
Misha. Excellent work. And before we close off, if you allow me, David,
absolutely,
guys,
go ahead.
a massive silent clap for Gustav for being here with us today. Not everybody have the joy of spending an hour with Gustav. So a silent clap, as they say.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, man, for joining.
My pleasure.
All right. Without further ado, I think what else can we really say, right? Thanks everyone who joined. We definitely want to see you in the next upcoming challenge, which is going to be announced relatively soon. So make sure to participate in that. Of course, if you want to have a lot of competition, try to convince Gustav to join in. But then again, it's going to be kind of hard to beat him. But, if you want to have a little bit of competition, why not? But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for joining in. I hope it was interesting and insightful. You managed to learn something new from all of this, and I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.